Hey everyone, today I'm going to be showing you how to count things in Excel. So let's just say that you've got a spreadsheet of data. It's got a couple of different foods that were sold and then the number that you sold for each one. And you want to not add them all together, but you want to count how many times something occurred, whether it's how many items were over the food name here, or how many different times that a quantity was entered. So there's three ways or three functions that people generally use to count things in Excel. There is the countA, the count, and then we'll say the countif function. And I've arranged these in a way that shows the one that counts the most and is the broadest, which is countA. So I'm going to say count everything. Count looks for just numbers, and then countif, count specific, I will say. So now to show you how these work, I'm going to go ahead into an open cell that I want the total to appear in, and we're going to initiate it the same way as any other function. We're going to type equals, and then the name that I listed out, which is countA. And then once I have it completely written out, I'm going to open up a parentheses. And at this point, you can see that Excel is ready for you to start putting the data in. So all it's asking you for is, what do you want it to count? Like essentially highlight the area that you want Excel to look at and then say how many times any value occurred. So in this example, I'm just going to click on A2. I'm going to hold down on my cursor and I'm going to drag it over to B6. And then once I see everything is highlighted, I'm going to let go. And I'm going to close the parentheses. Once it's closed here, I'm going to hit enter on my keyboard. And you can see that Excel has returned 10. And I just want to be super clear. I know I said it in the beginning that Excel's not going to go through and it's not going to add together this 3, 4, 1, 2, and so forth. What it's doing is it's looking at your spreadsheet or the area that you highlighted, and it's telling you how many different times or how many different cells have a value that occurred. So in this example, there's 5 different food items, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then of course there's 5 corresponding numbers. So it reads that as 10 values were submitted here, which is why it's returning the 10. So if you want to get a little bit more specific, let's just say that you've got a giant spreadsheet with different types of information, and you just want to know how many different cells contain numbers. That's when you're going to want to use the count function. So the same way as before, I'm going to go into the cell that I want the total to appear in. I'm going to type equals count, no A. I'm just going to do equals count and then open up the parentheses. Now, obviously, if I wanted to do this, I could just highlight, B2 down to B6. But just to show what I mean, I'm going to actually do the exact same range from A2 down to B6 again. Even though I know that, this A column is not numbers, I'm still going to do it. And then I'm going to close the parentheses and I'm going to hit enter the same way as before. And you can see that Excel returned 5 because it's seeing 5 different cells that contain numbers. And of course, in this example, because you can so clearly see what is numbers and what's not, it might seem a little bit silly. But if you had a big spreadsheet that wasn't as organized as this one, and it had, a name, then a number, then a date, and things like that, it'd be really straightforward to use this function to see how many different cells contain numbers. So there is still value to using this function. The last function that we can use to count things is the countif function. And this is super helpful if you know there's a specific thing that you're looking for that you want counted. I'm going to go into the cell, of course, that I want the total to appear in. I'm going to type equals countif and then open up the parentheses. And instead of just a range this time, like the previous two, you can see that there's a range and a criterion. So starting with the range, which is simple because it's what we just did, I'm going to highlight from A2 to B6. And instead of closing the parentheses, you can see that there's a comma after range. So I'm going to put a comma to show that I'm done giving Excel the range value. And then you can see when I did that, it flipped me over to criteria. And what criteria means is Excel is asking you, what do you want me to look for? So we've told it in range where to look, and in criteria, I want to tell it what to look for. So in this example, I want it to look for a name. So I'm going to put that in quotations, because anytime you're doing text in Excel, generally you want to put it in quotes. And I'm just going to type out ice cream, because I want Excel to look for how many times ice cream has been sold. You can see again, instead of a comma after criteria, there's just a parentheses, so it doesn't need more information. You can just put the parentheses and then click enter, and Excel will return 2, which is exactly how many times ice cream appears in our spreadsheet. And again, I understand that there's only 5 values in this spreadsheet, so that might seem very, very easy. But let's just say that you've got a spreadsheet at work and it's got 1,000 names on it, and you want to know how many times John's name appears or his employee number appears. You could use a countif function, or maybe write 2 or 3 of them for every employee to see how many times each one is occurring. Thanks for watching. Make sure to like and subscribe. And if you have any questions or an idea for a future video, put it in the comments below. Thank you.